I always believed that Emma's success was inevitable. From the moment we met, I could see the fire in her eyes, the unshakable determination that burned brighter than anything I'd ever known. She wasn't just a dreamer, she was a doer. And I admired that about her. Over the years, as our relationship grew stronger, I watched her chase her dreams with the relentless passion of someone who knew that the world would bend to their will if they worked hard enough. We had built a life together. Emma had worked her way up the ranks in the tech world, becoming one of the top players at a major company in New York. She was the kind of woman who made things happen. And I was the steady one. I worked as a project manager at a construction firm, spending my days coordinating details, overseeing projects, making sure that everything ran smoothly. My work was challenging, but it was nothing compared to the high-stakes world Emma navigated. Still, we made it work. We complemented each other in ways that felt right. But as Emma's career took off, our relationship began to fray at the edges. It wasn't obvious at first. At first, we were still the same couple who laughed at dinner and talked about our days. But soon, the conversations became less frequent, the moments of connection fewer and further between. Emma, always buried in her work, seemed more and more distant, even when she was physically present. I understood her ambition. I respected it. But there were times when I wondered if I was still part of her world, or if I was becoming an afterthought, a relic from a time when things were simpler, when she was still focused on the life we were building together. The turning point came after Emma was promoted to director of marketing. It was the position she had worked tirelessly for, and she had earned it. The announcement was big news in the company, and naturally we were all celebrating. It was supposed to be a moment of joy for both of us, a milestone in her career and our life together. I planned a grand dinner to celebrate. I booked a table at one of the best restaurants in the city, inviting our closest friends and family. I wanted this night to be perfect. But just the night before, Emma asked me to sit down with her. We were in the living room, the soft hum of the city filtering in from the open window. She seemed nervous, her hands twisting together in her lap as she looked away from me. It wasn't like her to seem uncertain, but tonight was different. Something felt off. "John," she started, her voice shaky. "I need to tell you something." My heart raced as I watched her face fall. The words that followed hit me like a punch to the gut. "I've met someone," she said, barely above a whisper. "His name is Nathan, and I think I'm in love with him." The words didn't quite register at first. I felt a coldness wash over me, my mind spinning to catch up with what I was hearing. Nathan? Her mentor at work? The man she had confided in? The man who had always been there to support her career? "But Emma," I managed to say, my voice a mere rasp. "What about us? What about everything we've built?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with regret. "I don't think you understand me anymore, John. You don't get the drive, the hunger. Nathan, he does. He's been there for me in ways you never could. I need more than what we have now." I couldn't comprehend it. Emma, the woman I had loved and supported for so long, the woman I thought I knew so well, was telling me that she wanted out. She had fallen in love with someone else. Someone who, from her words, seemed to understand her ambition better than I ever could. The room felt like it was closing in on me. I didn't know what to say. The pain was suffocating and all I could do was nod, my mind reeling. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. I didn't fight her. I couldn't. What was the point? The woman I loved had already made up her mind. She had already chosen the path she wanted to walk. And I was just in the way. As Emma spoke about the details of her relationship with Nathan, I felt like I was sinking deeper into a pit of despair. She explained how Nathan had been there for her during difficult times at work, how he had listened to her dreams, supported her in a way she felt I no longer could. I wanted to scream. I wanted to beg her to remember us, to remember everything we had shared. But I didn't. Instead, I nodded quietly, processing the information as if I were an outsider watching my own life unravel. After she left the room, I sat there in silence for a long time. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I just stared at the empty space between us, trying to make sense of everything. But it didn't make sense. I was married to a woman I thought I understood. But now I realized I hadn't known her at all. The next morning, as I got ready for the dinner we had planned to celebrate her success, I couldn't help but wonder, was this really the life I wanted? Was it worth fighting for? Could I change anything? Would she even care if I tried? But I didn't have time to answer those questions, not yet. Because the truth was, I had a feeling the worst was yet to come. The next few days were a blur. I barely slept, barely ate. My mind was constantly racing, replaying the moment Emma had dropped that bombshell on me. Nathan, her mentor. The man who had become the one to understand her drive and ambition. the one who, apparently, could give her the emotional connection I could no longer offer. I kept telling myself it would pass. That maybe it was just a moment of weakness, a fleeting distraction. But deep down I knew it wasn't. Emma had made a choice and I had become a casualty of that choice. The worst part was that I had no idea how to process any of it. I didn't know how to fight for something when the other person had already checked out, emotionally and mentally. It felt like I was chasing shadows, trying to hold on to something that was slipping away by the minute. Still, I couldn't let it go. I had to know who this Nathan really was. What kind of man could so easily sweep my wife off her feet? I needed to know the truth. I started by researching him. I didn't have to look far. Nathan was a name that was easy to find in the company's internal network. He was a senior strategist, highly respected within the industry, a man with a reputation for being brilliant but distant. People said he had a way of making you feel seen, understood. He could almost convince you that you were the most important person in the room. That was his power, I realized. His ability to make people feel special. As I dug deeper, I found stories, whispers in the office about how Nathan had a tendency to get involved with women who were ambitious, women who were willing to do anything to succeed. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon the pattern. Nathan had a history. He had been involved in relationships with several women, most of them rising stars in the company, only for them to be left heartbroken and, in some cases, professionally ruined once he was done with them. He used them. Manipulated them. And when things started to get serious, when the women expected more, he disappeared. It was a well-known fact in the office that Nathan was a ghost when it came to commitment. But no one had ever really spoken out against him. They'd all been too afraid, too worried about their own careers to risk crossing him. The realization hit me like a wave. Nathan wasn't just a man who Emma had fallen for. He was a predator, using his charm and influence to manipulate women into believing they were the only ones who mattered to him, until they weren't. I had to do something. I couldn't let Emma walk into this relationship blind, thinking that Nathan was the man he appeared to be. But I couldn't confront Emma directly, not yet. She wasn't ready to hear the truth. She was too deep in the illusion of him. I had to be smart about this. Over the next few weeks, I spent my evenings investigating Nathan. I reached out to a few people who had worked with him closely in the past, asking questions, piecing together his history. I learned that there was a woman, Tina, who had been with Nathan for several months before disappearing from the office. No one seemed to know what happened to her, but rumors swirled that she had been devastated when Nathan abruptly cut ties with her. I tracked down her contact information and, after some convincing, got her to meet with me. When I met Tina, I could see the pain in her eyes. She was a woman who had once been in Emma's shoes, full of ambition and belief that Nathan would support her, only to be abandoned when things got serious. She told me everything. How Nathan had led her to believe they had a future, how he had showered her with attention until he had gotten what he wanted. Then he vanished, leaving her with nothing but heartbreak. "He's a master at what he does," Tina said, her voice trembling. "He knows exactly what to say when to say it. He makes you feel like you're the only one who matters, until he gets bored and then you're nothing." I left that meeting with a heavy heart, but with more than enough information to expose Nathan for who he really was. The question was, how could I get this information to Emma? How could I make her see that the man she had fallen for was the very same man who had destroyed so many others? That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the life Emma and I had once dreamed of. I thought about the nights we spent talking about our future, about the family we had planned to build together. Now, those dreams seemed like distant memories, and in their place, there was only this painful, gnawing uncertainty. The next day I decided to take action. I had all the pieces in place. I knew what Nathan was capable of, and now it was time to make sure Emma knew too. But I wasn't going to do it recklessly. I had to be careful. This wasn't just about exposing Nathan, it was about saving Emma from herself. I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing, but one thing was clear. I couldn't just sit back and watch her fall into the same trap that so many other women had already fallen into. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life. Emma and I barely spoke. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part, but she had become distant, almost cold. Every time I tried to engage her, to talk about us, about what was happening between us, she would brush me off. She would say she was too busy, that work had been overwhelming, that she just didn't have the energy for anything else. I could feel the distance between us growing, but what hurt the most was that Emma seemed so sure about her decision. It wasn't just Nathan she was choosing, it was the life she envisioned with him, the future they could build together. Despite my pain, I kept moving forward with my plan. I had gathered all the information I needed about Nathan. I knew that he was a manipulative man, a man who preyed on women like Emma, women who were too ambitious for their own good. It was time for me to act. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. A few weeks after Emma's revelation, her company held a massive product launch event. It was the kind of event that would draw the who's who of the tech world. Emma, of course, was a key figure, the star of the night. She had worked tirelessly to make this launch a success, and now it was her moment to shine. Nathan would undoubtedly be there too, right by her side as always. I had to go. Not just for my own peace of mind, but to make sure Emma knew the truth about the man she was falling for. I wasn't sure what to expect when I arrived at the event. It was a sleek, glamorous affair at one of the most luxurious venues in the city. The buzz of excitement filled the air as industry leaders, influencers, and journalists mingled, sipping cocktails and exchanging business cards. But amidst all the high-profile guests, I felt like a ghost. I was just another face in the crowd, trying to blend in while my mind raced with the task ahead of me. I scanned the room, searching for Emma. It didn't take long to find her. She was standing with a group of colleagues, her face lit up with that familiar spark I had once admired so much. She looked stunning in her black dress, the embodiment of success and confidence. Nathan stood beside her, a shadow in the background, but I could see the way his eyes followed her every move. The way he was there, like he always was, supporting her, guiding her, making her feel like the center of his world. I had seen enough. But I wasn't here to confront her, not yet. I needed to talk to someone who had been in Emma's shoes. I needed to find someone who had been with Nathan, someone who could confirm everything I had learned. I wasn't sure if I could do it, but I had to try. I spotted a woman standing by the bar, alone. She was older, her face lined with experience, but there was something familiar about her. As I got closer, I recognized her from the company's newsletter, a former employee, someone who had worked closely with Nathan in the past. I had heard rumors about her, about how she had left the company suddenly and without explanation. I approached her cautiously, introducing myself and mentioning Nathan's name. She tensed at the mention of his name, her eyes darting nervously. It was clear she didn't want to talk, but after a few moments of pushing, she finally agreed to share her story. Her name was Linda, and she had been with Nathan for over a year. She was once the bright new star in the company, just like Emma, eager to prove herself and climb the corporate ladder. Nathan had been there for her at first, guiding her, offering mentorship, making her feel like she was the most important person in the room. But when things began to get serious, when she started talking about the future, he started pulling away. He had promised her a promotion, but when she asked for more, when she wanted a real commitment, he vanished. "He's like a ghost," Linda said, her voice filled with bitterness. "He'll make you believe you're the only one who matters, but the moment you start wanting more, he'll disappear. It's like he uses you until you're no longer useful, and then he moves on to the next person." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I wasn't crazy. Nathan was exactly who I thought he was. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked, knowing the answer but needing to hear it from her. Linda looked around nervously before answering. "People don't talk about it. Nathan is powerful. He controls everything. He can ruin your career if you cross him." I wasn't willing to risk it. I understood. It wasn't just Nathan's charm that made him dangerous. It was his power, his ability to manipulate everyone around him into silence. After speaking with Linda, I had everything I needed. I had proof. I had the truth. But now I had to decide how to use it. I couldn't just barge in and confront Emma. I couldn't make her believe me, not yet. But I could plant a seed, make her question everything Nathan had told her. The next day I decided to take action. I sent Emma a message. Nothing too confrontational, just a simple invitation to meet for coffee, to talk. I knew she wouldn't expect anything, but I had to give her one last chance. I wasn't going to beg her to come back. But I was going to show her the truth about Nathan, whether she was ready to see it or not. The days leading up to our meeting felt like an eternity. Emma agreed to meet me for coffee, but I could sense the distance in her response. It was a polite yes, but there was no enthusiasm, no warmth behind it. Still, I knew that this was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when I could finally show her the truth about Nathan. I arrived at the cafe early, my heart racing in anticipation. The cafe was quiet, a perfect setting for a conversation that I knew could change everything. I ordered a coffee and sat by the window, my eyes scanning the room, waiting for Emma to arrive. My mind kept replaying the moment when she first told me about Nathan. The shock, the hurt, the disbelief. But now it wasn't about me anymore. It was about her, about saving her from making the same mistake I had made. When Emma walked in, she looked the same as always, beautiful, confident, but there was a coldness in her eyes, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. She walked over to the table, her expression neutral as she sat down across from me. "Hey," she said softly, but there was no warmth in her voice. It was like we were strangers, two people who once shared a life and now didn't know how to talk to each other anymore. "Hey," I replied, my voice a little hoarse. I cleared my throat, trying to calm my nerves. "This was it. I'm glad you came." She nodded, taking a sip from her cup, but didn't say anything else. The silence stretched between us, heavy and thick. I knew she wasn't here to make small talk. This wasn't just a friendly chat. This was me trying to save her from making a decision that could ruin her life. "Emma," I began, my voice steady but firm. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about Nathan. And I think you need to know something about him." Her eyes flickered and she set her cup down, a slight frown forming on her lips. "John, I don't want to do this. I don't want to rehash everything." "I understand," I said quickly. "But you need to hear this. I've done my research. I've spoken to someone who knows him, someone who was in your shoes once. Someone who trusted him just like you do. And I need you to know that Nathan isn't who he seems to be." Her expression hardened and she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms over her chest. "John, I'm not interested in your opinion about Nathan. You don't know him like I do." I could feel the wall she had built around herself, the one she had placed between us. But I couldn't stop now. This wasn't just about me trying to change her mind. This was about saving her from being manipulated, from falling deeper into Nathan's trap. "Listen," I said, my voice softening, but with a resolve that could not be ignored. "I know it's hard to believe, but Nathan has a pattern. He's done this before. He uses women like you, women who are ambitious, who are looking for support, someone to believe in them. But when they start expecting more, when they want something real, he disappears." Emma looked away, her jaw tightening as if she was trying to block out the words. I could see that she didn't want to hear it, didn't want to believe it. But I had to try. "I spoke to someone who was with him before," I continued, leaning forward slightly, my eyes never leaving hers. "Her name is Linda. She worked with Nathan. She trusted him. She thought he cared about her, but when it got serious, when she asked for a real commitment, he left her behind. Just like that. And now she's the one dealing with the aftermath of it all." Emma's eyes flickered with something. Was it doubt? Regret? But she quickly masked it with a defensive expression. "You don't get it, John. Nathan is different with me. He supports me in ways you never did. You don't understand how hard it is being in my position. You just don't get it." I could feel the frustration rising inside me, but I fought to keep my tone calm. "It's not about me, Emma. It's about him. He's not the man you think he is. And I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to lose everything because you're blinded by the illusion of what he's offering you." There was a long pause as Emma stared at me, her eyes searching mine as if trying to figure out if I was telling the truth. She opened her mouth to say something, but then hesitated as if the words wouldn't come. I could see the struggle inside her, the conflict between the man she thought she knew and the man I was describing. "You're wrong, John," she finally said, her voice tinged with frustration. "I don't need you to protect me. I can make my own decisions." I nodded slowly, my heart heavy, but I couldn't give up. "I'm not trying to protect you, Emma. I'm just trying to make you see what's really happening. You deserve more than what he can give you." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I think we're done here," she said, her voice cold. "I don't want to hear any more of this." I watched her walk out of the cafe, the door swinging shut behind her with a soft click. My chest ached as I sat there, feeling the weight of what I had just done. I had tried to warn her. I had given her the truth. But in the end, she wasn't ready to hear it. As I left the cafe, I knew one thing for sure. Emma wasn't going to listen to me, not yet. But maybe, just maybe, someday she would look back and see that I had only wanted what was best for her. Weeks passed, and Emma's silence became the loudest thing in my life. She had cut off all communication, not just with me but with everyone around her. Her career was still thriving, but her personal life, the one she had shared with me for so long, seemed to have evaporated. I could only imagine how deep she had fallen into Nathan's world, the world where ambition and success overshadowed everything else. Meanwhile, I threw myself into my work. I had always been someone who found comfort in the structure of a project, the predictability of tasks, and the satisfaction of completing something well. But this was different. This was a project I couldn't control. This was a part of my life that I had lost, and no matter how much work I poured myself into, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness. It wasn't until a few months later that things started to change. One morning, as I was preparing for a meeting, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, thinking it was another sales call or spam. but something told me to pick up. John? The voice on the other end was hesitant, familiar, and it took me a moment to place it. Emma? I said, my heart suddenly racing. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice fragile, almost like she was unsure of what she was about to say. Of course, I said immediately, my emotions tangled between relief and confusion. What's going on? Are you okay? I don't know how to say this, she continued, her voice cracking. But I made a huge mistake. I've been so lost, John. I thought Nathan was everything I wanted, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. I sat down, my mind scrambling to make sense of her words. What happened? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Everything you said, it was true. Nathan used me. He made me feel special, like I was the only one who mattered. But it was all a lie. The moment I started asking for more, asking for real commitment, he disappeared. Just like you said he would. Emma paused, a deep breath on the other end of the line. I feel so foolish. I closed my eyes, my chest tight. Emma, I told you. I tried to tell you, but you weren't ready to listen. I wasn't, she admitted. And I should have listened. I've lost so much, my dignity, my career connections, and now I'm left with nothing but regret. Her words stung, but I couldn't find it in me to feel angry. Not anymore. I could hear the pain in her voice, the exhaustion that came with the realization that everything she had fought for, everything she thought she wanted, had come crashing down around her. I never wanted this for you, Emma, I said softly. I never wanted you to hurt like this. But I also know that you're stronger than this. You can rebuild your life. You've already proven that you can achieve anything when you set your mind to it. There was a long silence, and for a moment, I thought she might hang up. But then she spoke again, her voice shaky but determined. I don't know what to do now, John. I don't know where to go from here. You start by doing what's right for you, I said. Not for anyone else. Not for Nathan, not for me, but for you. You need to find yourself again, Emma. And I'll be here however you need me. She let out a breath, her voice soft but filled with something I hadn't heard in a long time, hope. I'm sorry, John. I'm so sorry for everything. You don't have to apologize, I said. You made a choice and you've learned from it. That's all anyone can do. After a few more minutes of conversation, we ended the call. I sat there for a while, letting her words sink in. I had always hoped for this moment, but now that it had come, I felt a strange sense of closure. Emma was beginning to realize the truth, even if it had taken her longer than I would have liked. It wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about what could have been. Emma had made her choice, and now she was facing the consequences of it. But I had my own life to live, and so did she. As the months went by, Emma's reputation began to rebuild. She took a step back from her career, focusing on herself, on her own well-being. She sought therapy, reconnected with old friends, and slowly she started finding her way back to who she was before Nathan, before the ambition and the blind chase for success consumed her. And as for me, life moved forward. I had my own victories and struggles to contend with. I wasn't perfect, but I had learned something valuable through it all. Sometimes, the best way to heal isn't by forcing someone to change, but by giving them the space to figure things out on their own. A year later, I stood at a seminar in Los Angeles, a place where I had never imagined myself. It was at this event that I met Sarah, a woman whose ambition mirrored Emma's in some ways, but who had found a way to balance her success with her personal life. We talked for hours, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a genuine connection, one that was free of the baggage I had carried from the past. Sarah was different. She understood that life wasn't just about reaching the top, it was about enjoying the journey, making meaningful connections along the way. We both had big dreams, but we also had space for each other. Emma, on the other hand, was still rebuilding. She had learned her lesson the hard way, but she was doing it on her own terms now. She was no longer the woman I had loved, but she was someone I could respect. And as for Nathan? Well, he had disappeared from everyone's life. No one knew where he had gone, and honestly, no one cared. I wasn't angry anymore. The anger had long since faded, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. I had found my own path, one that didn't involve Emma or Nathan. And that was enough for me.